This video will discuss the Accenture Life Trends article. The first trend I want to discuss was called mediocrity. The beginning was spelled meh. So I really thought that this trend resonated with what's going on in society, and that's why I wanted to discuss it, because I've actually noticed this myself. First, talking about the lack of creativity that there is in society. Creativity used to be kind of the way to inspire people and incite emotional responses in people, but over the last few years, and this trend specifically for this past year and this year, has been that creativity has really been on a downward spiral, and things have just been very meh, very boring and very bland. A lot of producers and movie studios, TV studios, people in Hollywood are going with the safe option in terms of seeing reboots or turning a movie into a TV series or a book into a movie, which are all great, but none of those are new, original, creative ideas. They're all just reboots, like I said. And I thought that this trend was really interesting, actually, because I just heard it on a podcast, something similar, talking about the lack of new content out there. You think of last year, the two biggest movies were Barbie and Oppenheimer. Barbie is a movie based on a doll that's already been created and already exists in society, and then Oppenheimer's based on a true story that happened in history. So neither of those are original ideas that are coming out the way that I feel like Hunger Games, when they come out, was a new kind of original idea movie. And you kind of can think of any of the old classics, from kids movies to action movies like Fast and Furious or Cinderella. Like, we don't see those anymore coming out for this next generation. And I think a big piece of this too is how AI has gotten involved in these different industries, and we no longer have that human connection, that human kind of brain and creativity behind these brainstorming processes. Instead, AI can only do so much, can only do what's really fed into it, which then therefore is never creating new ideas, because they can only work based on information that's been preloaded. So I thought this trend was super interesting, and I think it has a lot of implications for just how AI can step into a business, step into, let's say, in this industry, in the movie and the television industry, and isn't really bringing anything new. And I think the producers are settling for the safe options, the options that won't potentially lead them to getting canceled or create any type of discourse of opposing opinions. They'd rather go with what's tried and true instead of trying to kind of push the limits or test new ideas. And I think this actually is a pretty bad trend. When we're too afraid to be creative and to push the limit and try what's next, we get stuck. And I don't think it leads to any positive progress or change, or excitement or inspiration in the next generation. What I wanted to discuss was error 429, human request limit reached. And this trend is about how technology is starting to happen to people rather than to work with people for their betterment. Technology is kind of now standing on its own as its own entity. We see it in how AI and robots are starting to take over human jobs, starting to take over parts of your life where human control is actually now on the back burner. I thought this trend was interesting to discuss, because on a personal level, I have felt this, as technology is a huge part of my life. You think about in the little ways that you don't even notice, like you wake up, your alarm clock's on your iPhone, and then it's a bad habit that I don't want to be in, but first thing I do in the morning is I pick up my phone, turn off my alarm, check my messages, and then end up going on my phone and just doing a few different things that are all based on my phone, versus maybe being present, waking up, and just starting my day. And you just see how technology is intertwined in every single aspect of our lives. And it no longer feels like you have full-on control, because your instincts, your habit is to grab your phone, is to, you're bored and you're watching TV and you need to have your phone in your hand or your laptop at the same time. I think that people's attention spans have gotten so much shorter. You see the studies coming out about kids with TikTok and how social media has been just so prevalent in our lives, and how it actually has become a detriment rather than something that was first created to be a benefit. I think with the AI and the robot piece, how when we were growing up, we saw movies about robots taking over, and it was this big fear, and this thing that everyone never was going to happen, never this. And now you see videos of robots that can walk and talk and act like a human, or AI bots that can call you on your phone and scam you. And it's just become so intertwined in our daily lives that it feels like humans are almost just losing control to how technology is really shaping the world. And the biggest issue with this trend and how it affects businesses and corporations and general society is there's very limited regulation about the smallest forms of technology and social media all the way to the biggest and scariest parts of AI and how much it's intertwined. There's really not a lot of oversight and regulation, and this is something that is going to need to be regulated if it's going to continue to intertwine in our societies and really begin to make an impact on human life. So this is something definitely to watch out for, and that I think needs to get addressed sooner than later, or it might just end up going down a really bad path, and technology becoming just life in a technological bubble. The trend I wanted to discuss is called Where's the Love? And this trend is focused on how through recent economic downturns over the last 1 to 2 years, how businesses have really left their customers behind. And as customers, people feel that businesses care too much about their profits and what's important to them, and the potential greediness of execs at businesses, and that the economic downturns have really only harshly affected the customers. This is somewhat, the article discussed how this could be kind of a miscommunication of sorts, that businesses aren't necessarily solely trying to, for lack of a better word, screw over the customer, but they also have certain measures and things they need to maintain through their economic hard times. But it feels to the customer that all of these changes that are helping keep businesses afloat are coming at the cost of hurting the customer, whether that's in shrinkflation or skimpflation, where I noticed it the other day. I was in the grocery store checkout line and picked up a Twix bar, the normal size that used to have just the two sides, and I swear it was like an inch smaller on lengthwise than it used to be. Or you get a bag of chips and you open the bag that's this big, and there's only this many chips in the bag. And the companies feel like it feels that they're deceiving their customers by doing this, because they're keeping the generic, that same little Twix bar that's always been in the aisle for years. It's the same price, but now you're getting less product. So this trend is super interesting because I've noticed it firsthand, and I think a lot of people have too, are kind of getting fed up with it and are starting to realize that, you know what, you might not need these things, and blatantly some people can't afford them if you're not going to get your bang for your buck, or you're not going to get the same quality that you're used to for the price. You see kind of a flip of this. This is how I think it can really affect business culture, and how it can affect these businesses' bottom line, is that people are going to start to home make their own things, or do it themselves. And I've noticed this trend a lot on Instagram and on social media, with people wanting to make their own, if you've heard of the sourdough trend, or just really trying to make things themselves because they're tired of going to the grocery store and spending $100 for 5 items. When you can make it yourself, you know it's healthier, you know that you're not putting chemicals in your body, and you're also saving money and really getting out of it what you put in. So I think people are catching on to this trend that businesses are starting to leave their customers behind. Priorities have shifted more to more focus on money than on their customer. And I think customers are really getting fed up. And if companies don't try and make a switch sometime soon, people are going to be done in general and are just going to do it themselves, and no longer be putting that money into those businesses, and no longer giving them business.